megahertz and gigahertz tell you the number of operations that your computer does per second. Even if your computer does 1 trillion operations per second, it would take a billion years to complete your entire calculation. Right, so then we are going into more complicated algorithms, and we are going to look into analyzing those algorithms, but we are going to look into examples of those later. Okay. Any questions up to now? Good. So in general, our complexity order of growth can be surmised in this particular formulation, where 1 is the least amount of complexity, where big O of 1 or the complexity of 1 means it's a constant complexity. That means that even if I have an array of a trillion or a million, trillion, gazillion numbers, I will always have a constant complexity in terms of my algorithm. You can think of that as an algorithm such as get me the first element of my array. In that particular situation, I do not care the size of about the size of my array. I just get the first element, and that does not require me iterating through my entire array. So that is sort of an big O of 1 complexity. Then we have log base 2 of n complexities. Then on top of that, we have complexities in terms of n. Then we have larger than that, that is n times log of n. Then we have n squared, n cubed, then exponential functions such as 2 to the power of n. And then finally, the worst case scenario, that is, you should not write algorithms like this, but in factorial algorithm. And there are algorithms that require this amount of time. Okay. Now, whenever we say that we are going to analyze a particular algorithm, that usually does not mean that we are going to figure out the worst possible case of that algorithm, because that worst case can sometimes be hard to compute. Right, so it might require that you figure out a particular case that is worst for this particular algorithm. In general, whenever we talk about analysis of an algorithm, we are going to talk about upper bounds and lower bounds of that algorithm. Where upper bound means that however my algorithm grows over time, this upper bound will always be higher than the time complexity of my algorithm. Right, so if my algorithm takes n time, so linear in the time of my size of my array, then I can say that n to the power of 10 is always an upper bound, because it is going to be n to the power of 10, and n is linear, and n to the power of 10 will always grow much larger than the value of n. Right, so we are going to talk about algorithm analysis in terms of upper bound. So that is an equation that your algorithm, so an equation that defines the time taken by your algorithm, and your algorithm will never go above that time. And we also talk about lower bounds. Lower bounds means an equation that your algorithm cannot take an amount of time smaller than the defined amount of time by the lower bound. Okay. So these upper bounds, lower bounds, and these bounds are usually denoted by these 5 terms. So big O, big omega, big theta, small o or little omega, and little theta. We'll talk about big omega, big theta, and things like that. But in general, the main thing that we will look into is big O. But we are also going to look into the other things as well. But first, so historically, big O was the only thing that came in terms of analysis of algorithms. Big omega, big theta, small theta, and all of those things came because scientists usually did not use this notation of big O correctly, and they had to make new versions of this, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. So before I begin explaining this big O, big omega, and all of these confusing things, can someone tell me what is the meaning of big omega? And remember, again, I don't expect you to know, and again, this class is not graded, right? So you can answer anything. Doesn't really matter.
Big omega is the lower bound of the...
And what about big theta? Very good. Come on. Big
Both
omega
lower
was
and
lower
upper
bound.
bound.
Wait, what? Again?
Like both lower bound and upper bound.
Both lower bound and upper bound. Very good. Okay. So in general, big O means that what is the upper bound equation of my algorithm. Big omega means what is the lower bound of my algorithm. And big theta means what is the average case of my algorithm. So in general, how I kind of remember this thing is basically using these lines in the Greek alphabet, right? So if since big omega, we have the lines at the very end, it generally means that we are talking about the lower bound. In theta, since we have the line in the middle, usually we are talking about the average case. So that is how a weird way of remembering this thing, but yes, so you guys are correct. Yes. Okay, so when we say that we have an algorithm that takes f of n time, and that algorithm has a big O of g of n, that means that barring some constant c, if we multiply that particular gn with that constant, that gn will always be larger than f of n. That is big O of fn or gn. Similarly, big omega means that we are talking about the lower bound. Lines are in the lower hand side. So we are talking about the lower bound. That means barring some constant g of times g of n, this particular function c times g of n will always grow lower than our function f of n. And similarly, theta of g of n basically means that we are basically sandwiching our entire algorithm into two halves. The first half is your upper bound, that is big O of n, and the lower bound is your lower bound, that is omega of n, big omega of n. And essentially, we are saying that our algorithm will take some time that is within these two bounds. So given two constants, C1 of g of n and C2 of g of n, our algorithm will always be within this bounds. But one thing to remember is when we say that one algorithm is within theta of gn, means that g of n is the fixed equation. We need to say that some constant times g of n is the upper bound, some constant times g of n is the smaller bound. But the g of n equation has to be the same. Okay. So essentially, we are mainly going to talk about these things. So C, C1 and C2. So C being the what we are multiplying our complexity equation. And we are also going, C1 and C2 are the upper bound and the lower bound multipliers for theta. And we are going to talk about N0, where N0 is the point in time after which your algorithm works according to your asymptotic analysis. Okay, so let's look into this thing in more detail. Okay, so can everyone see these graphs here? I mean, mainly these letters here.
Yeah, I can barely see the letters, but I can see the graph.
You can barely see the letters. Let me just zoom in a bit. Okay, so let's take these three graphs in more detail. So f of n is our algorithm. So this is the squiggly line that goes up to here, and this is f of n, right? Now, this is the complexity of our algorithm. We say that our algorithm is bounded in the worst case scenario using this gn function that we say that it is c times g of n. And that function grows, let's say, in this particular order. Then for big O of g of n, it means that there is some number n0 after which our algorithm always takes smaller time than our complexity analysis of g of n. That is c times g of n. Right? So where essentially it means that if you forget about this entire part of this graph, essentially it means that our algorithm is lower than the complexity of c times g of n. G of n is much larger than f of n. Similarly, for lowercase complexities or big omega, forget about this n0. Essentially, it means that our analysis says that our algorithm will always take more time than c times g of n, where f of n is our algorithm time and c times g of n will always be a time smaller than f of n. And now we have big theta of g of n that says that there are two equations, C1 times g of n and C2 times g of n, where f of n, our algorithm, always resides within these two bounds, that stays within these two numbers. Okay. So that is what it says. So last time when we talked about algorithm complexity, we just visualized the process as to how many number of leaves there are of a merge sort, or the height of a tree of a merge sort. But now we are going to talk about these things in a more mathematical sense, right? So essentially when we say that f of n equals to big O of g of n, it means that there resides some c value such that f of n is always less than c times g of n. Similarly, the lower bound, big omega of g of n, means that f of n is always greater than c times g of n. And when we talk about f of n equals to theta of g of n, that means that f of n is both big O of g of n, so that is g of n gives you an upper bound, and g of n also gives you a lower bound with two different constants. So essentially it means that f of n is always going to be larger than c2 times g of n, and f of n is going to be smaller than c1 times g of n. Remember that it is going to be the same equation, g of n, but the constant will be different. Okay. Now, let's look at a couple examples. So let's say that our algorithm takes this amount of time, that is 3n squared minus 100n plus of x. And we say that it is big O of n squared. Now, we say this because there is some constant, and forget about n0 as the starting value of n. There is some constant 3.1, where if we multiply this with big O of n squared, that is 3.1 times n squared, this number will always be larger than 3n squared minus 100n plus of x. Does everyone agree with this particular statement? That 3.1 n squared will always be larger than 3n squared minus 100n plus of 6? Nobody else agrees except Yaswanti? Perfect. Okay, so can we say instead of 3.1 n squared, can we say that 3n squared is going to be larger than 3n squared minus 100n plus 6? So let me just copy this thing, paste this thing here. Can we, instead of saying, okay, instead of 3.1 n squared, can we say 3n squared is always going to be larger than 3n squared minus 100n? That will be theta. That is an interesting point. But before I come to that, Indu and Matt, tell me why you disagree that 3n squared is not going to be larger than 3n squared minus 100n plus 6. So Indu agrees. Matt, tell me why. It's no. Oh, you agree. Perfect. Sean, you are correct that it will be theta, but in essence, if you think about it, if n is always a positive number, then in that scenario, 3n squared will always be larger than 3n squared minus 100 of n, because we are subtracting something from it. Right. So in essence, this is not theta. Theta means a different thing. We'll come to theta later. But Sean, 3n squared is always going to be larger than this particular equation. Do you agree? Because we are subtracting 100